Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest Trav Media Meets. I'm Henry Hemming, advisor to Trav Media. Great to have you here. Thanks for joining us. This is our latest deep dive into one of the top success stories in the travel media. And that, of course, today is National Geographic Traveller UK, which turned 15 years young in December. My, how time flies. They've got a wonderful editorial team. We've got the top people here today with their hands on the tiller or the joystick, the steering wheel, whatever it is. And I'm delighted that they're going to be telling us today not only about the publication and its audience and how our PR professionals in the audience can pitch in, but they're going to give us an exclusive sneak peek of their brand new design, which is just about to launch. So I think this is a UK exclusive. To welcome them, we've got, well, let me just give them a chance to say hi. We've got Pat Riddell, editor. Hi, Pat.
Hi, Henry.
We've got Amanda Canning, deputy editor.
Hi
Hello,
there.
Amanda.
Hi.
And finally, a creative splash in the form of Becky Redman, art director.
Hi,
Uh,
everybody.
Great to have you here, Becky. So to introduce you properly, Pat has been editor of National Geographic Traveller UK since 2010. I remember meeting you in the week you joined the publication, and he's been a travel writer and editor for over 20 years. Pat won Editor of the Year Travel at the British Society of Magazine Editors Awards in 22, and has seen this publication named Travel Magazine of the Year 3 times winner at the Trav Media Awards. So amazing. Pat's a long-suffering Nottingham Forest fan. There's always next season, Pat, with an unfeasibly large record collection, and I'm advised he has an aversion to polystyrene. I wish I got more granular information on people like that. Amanda Canning, deputy editor, has been at National Geographic Traveller for just under 3 years. And before that, she launched her own independent travel magazine, Good Place, and was indeed deputy editor of Lonely Planet magazine. And I think you were there for about 12 years before events somewhat beyond our control in 2020 put the world on pause. But I'm so glad you're now with National Geographic Traveller, Amanda. And finally, we have Becky Redman, art director, overseeing all products at the award-winning National Geographic Traveller UK portfolio. Every day is a press day for me, says Becky. Previously with Time Out and a regular freelancer for the wonderful NME. And Becky's been in London for 20 years and hasn't lost one goddamn bit of her American accent, as you will shortly hear. National Geographic Traveller has been published by parent company APL Media, Hi to Anthony and Maria, under license from National Geographic in Washington since 2010. Their output is delectable. Think You Are There photography. I wish I was there. Authentic travel experiences, inspiring narratives. And they deliver a substantial chunk of National Geographic's overall worldwide output on its website. So I'm going to pass to them now to tell us more about this great publication. But do start putting in some questions in Zoom's Q&A. And also don't forget to do a bit of social, and do please tag in our guests. So I'm going to turn now to National Geographic Traveller, and I think, Pat, you're happy to start the performance.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Henry. I shall share my screen. We'll give you a quick sort of a whirlwind run through where we're currently at with the magazine. Okay, hopefully you can all see that. Yeah, as Henry said, I'm the editor. I've been there since we launched in late 2010. It's taken many twists and turns and various forms along the way. Becky's and Amanda have been with us for quite a while now, and sort of taken the lead on shaping the content and the look of the new redesign. We'll give you a quick overview before we sort of launch into the March issue, which is in the shops tomorrow. Some of you will have already received that. I think as subscribers get it a few days early. Yeah, so we're 10 issues a year. We have a double issue, Jan, Feb, and July, August, which are often our best sellers. Top left there, you can see Japan, which is proving really popular for readers at the moment. The newsstand issue last year was our highest ever selling issue, which was Japan. We've almost repeated that feat with the Jan-Feb issue again this year. Standard 180 pages. It's often larger. There's slight price increase from the new issue, but I think that's kind of largely in line with most other magazines. And obviously, costs have risen for everybody, print paper especially. We'll go on to a few more products later in the presentation, but the collection series has grown from probably usually around 4 a year to 7 a year now. And then the guides, we have regular supplements that come with the mag as added value for readers. Cruise, winter sports, and USA are the standard 100-page supplements, and quite often we have sponsor-led or just destination focuses we like to pick. So going on to the mag itself, as Henry said, yeah, we picked up Trav Media Travel Magazine of the Year for the third year in a row last year. New Standard Magazine of the Year at the Newspaper Magazine Awards, Cover of the Year at PPA, and Editorial Director for Maria Pieri at the BCMA Awards last year. So we doing pretty well in picking up the awards. Newsstand is averaging 6,500 sales. Like I say, the double issues, Jan-Feb especially, which is obviously sort of peak time for booking and people planning the year ahead, does almost double that. Subscriptions are up. The new ABC figures will be out in a few weeks, so we'll be excited to share those when they come out, but they're under wraps for now. Online, as Henry said, since where were we? I think 2022, 23, we merged onto the main nationalgeographic.com site. We used to have our .co.uk site, but since the closure of the US traveller title, we've largely populated the travel vertical of the website there with our content. So most content in the magazine goes online, as well as our own original online content. Again, we'll sort of look at that a bit further. Social followers have grown pretty strongly in some of the areas we've sort of moved on to. Facebook is obviously just over 250,000 there. We do have reach with the main Nat Geo accounts, which are in their millions. So we're a bit smaller than them, but for UK, I think it's a good size. Instagram's growing rapidly in the past couple of years. Pinterest, we've kind of had a renewed focus on. LinkedIn as well is growing well for us, and newsletters I shall come on to a bit later. But yeah, we've got three weekly newsletters going out, just over 45,000 subscribers there, with a pretty strong open rate. And then I shall pass over to Becky and Amanda to run you through the redesign, which we're all very excited about and is our sort of main focus of this session.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'll kick things off, and then me and Becky will kind of tag team our way through the issue. So our March issue sees our first redesign issue, and it's our first major revamp since COVID. So we thought it was high time. We gave the magazine a fresh new look. As Pat mentioned, we have a lot of subscribers, a lot of repeat purchases on the newsstand. So we want to keep things exciting and surprising for them, and just see how our content is fitting within the market and with our readers. We carried out a reader survey and got lots of feedback from them about what they like about the magazine, what they don't like, how they're travelling, what they want to see. And then got a lot of feedback from various departments within APL. We've had, quite a fresh new staff within the last few years, all of whom have come with their own ideas. So it's great to be able to take those into account and make a magazine that kind of reflects the way our readers travel and indeed our staff travel. So yeah, March is our first issue, and as you'll see, it's chilly cover story. And Becky, if you want to talk through some of the design elements here.
Yeah, we've, revamped some of the fonts that are in our brand toolkit, and we're just kind of pushing those in a slightly different way than we have in the past. We've also added a bit more page furniture, maybe a little bit playful, one might say. A couple new punchy colors, also leaning into our brand color. So you'll see a bit more of that throughout the magazine. Yeah, and a bit more photography. So you'll see that. Amanda will get to that in a little bit, but yeah. And a couple new fonts as well into our features. You'll see this chili on the front cover is one of our new fonts. Um, and yeah, we're introducing a few more within the features section, which you will see soon.
Okay, so here you'll see a little overview of the major changes we've made. So we looked at the magazine literally from cover to back page, just to see, is the content still relevant? Is it still exciting? And we've changed our sections. So the front section is now called the edit, and we'll go into more detail when we get to these pages. But basically, it's travel news and seasonal recommendations, all very snacky, bite-sized. Then the features still, obviously, are kind of living our commitment to fantastic storytelling through writing and photography. So that's not changed. But as Becky said, we've just introduced some new elements, a bit more playful elements throughout, more panels, as you'll see later. And then the guide is kind of more recommendations for forthcoming trips, so kind of very tip-based. And then we end with Expert Traveller, which is kind of our consumer section, just giving lots of travel advice and insight into the industry in a consumer-friendly way. Okay, so yeah, we'll get into the edit here. As you see, it looks, if you're familiar with National Geographic Traveller in its previous forms, you'll see this already looks very different from the off. So we've got 5 pages of travel news now, and this is very dip in, dip outable, and it allows us to cover just pretty much any travel topic we think our readers are going to be interested in. So any type of travel news, whether it's an exhibition or perhaps destination opening up, new tours, new hotels, new building opening, books, podcasts, flights. We've just got the option to cover whatever we think is interesting in these pages now. And then we have also part of the edit, lots of options for seasonal recommendations, kind of ideas for our readers for trips possibly they can take right now, or consider taking in the next month or two, whether that's a domestic break, a festival, an unusual festival that perhaps they haven't heard of. We obviously always like to surprise our readers rather than just cover destinations and experiences that are well covered elsewhere in the travel media. So yeah, always looking to intrigue. And then we've got themed guides, itineraries, and yeah, seasonal recommendations along themes, which allows us to tie in lots of destinations along a single theme. So that particular example is about wildlife returning to Europe or waking from hibernation, how you go and see it and experience it. But it can be anything from what's cooking in particular restaurants, like seasonal dishes, seasonal food. So lots of options to cover, again, just a vast variety of topics within that section. And here we've got, these are all 3 new pages where we're covering local trends, really tapping into the local voices and destinations and using local journalists to tell us what's going on in largely cities, but doesn't have to be. So here we're talking to a local chef about where they eat when they're not at work, what the locals are doing in Dublin right now, like what's trending, and then kind of a themed look at a kind of cultural trend. This one is about the rise of cemetery cafes in Berlin. If you've ever wanted to have a cup of coffee in a graveyard, Berlin is the place to go. And these will be three themes that we'll look at in every issue.
Competition page, I'm sure many of you will be aware of. We run these each issue as a full page within the front section of the magazine. Generally, we're looking at a two-person kind of all in trip, so flights and accommodation. Sometimes it's a tour, sometimes it's more, the sort of beach resort, sometimes it can be a city break. But these are not paid for competitions, but we're obviously happy to work with people here. So yeah, usually tourist board, tour op, airline and or a hotel often working together. Third party data we can provide. So there's the sign the opt-in is there. So that's hosted on the website, and usually run for 6 or 7 weeks from the launch date of the issue. So we'll come on to obviously other ways you can work with us and some of the features, ideas, and opportunities there. But yeah, that's one of the first I thought worth mentioning.
Okay, and then we get into the kind of the meat of the magazine, our long form storytelling, and our features. Well, do you want to have a quick look at the design here, Becky?
Yeah, like I said earlier, we're introducing a couple new elements, some page furniture, trying to get a little bit more playful, things to grab your attention. Pushing fantastic photography as much as we can. We like the photos to lead the pages here. And whether that be we're working with a commissioned photography shoot or even some mixing with stock as well. But that kind of falls into our cover story land to do a bit of mixture usually. But the rest of our features are mainly all shot photography, which you'll see a little bit of that as well.
Yeah, it's for all our main features, we look to send a writer and a photographer on the research trips. It gives us a really fantastic marriage between the copy and the images. And obviously, our readers then are seeing images that they haven't seen before, which is obviously brilliant for them. And so, yeah, here are our features. Well, as I mentioned earlier, we're still focused on really immersive storytelling, like deep dives into destinations. We're a little more flexible now with our pagination. So where previously we had kind of set slots for each type of feature, we're now a lot looser. So we might have a 5-page feature on something, a really niche traveling angle. Our cover stories tend to be 17 pages or more, so they're a real deep dive. But yeah, our features are anything now from 5 pages to up to 12. We'll always want to cover a city within that. We'll want to cover a food story. Food and travel are really important priorities for our readers. There'll be some sort of cultural story. We'll always include a big photo story that's based on a trip a photographer has taken and really, really focused on the imagery. And here's just a new treatment we've introduced, which we're not going to run every issue, but you'll see kind of 3 times a year probably. And this is an itinerary-based feature, in this case, a road trip around Louisiana with 5 key stops along the way and just lots of information about an insight into those destinations, as well as more practical information like where to stay and where to eat, how to get there, how to hire your car. So yeah, well, you'll see this 3 times a year, possibly 4, but yeah, not every issue, but regularly. And here's another new treatment. We're likely to include a list feature in our features. Well, in most, if not all, issues from now on. And these allow us to give kind of a themed roundup of either things that are important for the season or things that are trending, or else focusing on our readers' priorities. So we know our readers absolutely love train travel. They're obsessed. So our first one was on European sleeper trains, 7 very different trips that the reader can take. And then we turn towards the back. So this is the guide section, which is kind of, as it says, it's kind of a guide to destinations, kind of more guidebooky than the features. Well, just with lots of recommendations and tips on how a reader can best enjoy and appreciate a destination. So we've got two features here that we've run regularly, but we've just revamped, given them a fresh new look. And one of those is
You'll notice little icons at the top of each of those pages, very carefully designed.
I don't know if you can see those on this screen, but
No.
you'll see them when you get the magazine in the flesh. So yeah, we've got two existing treatments that we are just given a revamp, one on a weekend break, and one on the best hotels in a destination. And then we've got two new treatments within the guide. One is based on food. Said it's really important for our readers, so we want to make sure we're highlighting it throughout the magazine. And this one is on it's kind of the story behind a dish in a destination, looking at its origins, how it's developed, and the best places to have it now. And then we've got a short little feature called Take Two, which offers two sides to a destination, in this case, Paris, either with the kids or as a romantic break. Yeah, and then we come to our back section, which is kind of the more consumer advice and industry insight, but presented in a way that's relevant and interesting to the reader. So it might be a destination that they should keep an eye out because it's trending or something's happening there. That's our opening page there. In that case, the Tian Shan Mountains and the opening of a new trail there. We've also got, people might remember the report from the previous designs. We've changed this to the lowdown. It's still looking at kind of a trend or a behaviour that we see on the rise, or that's kind of increasing interest to our readers. In this case, the rise of reading retreats, and not only insight into what the trend is and why it's developed, but also suggestions on how the reader might go on a reading retreat themselves, and bookish cities. We still have the kit lists, which people might remember, so like product reviews along a theme, and then we've got more consumer advice on kind of topics that we know kind of either plague or interest us whenever we're on our travels. So in this case, it's just how you get the best seat on the plane. And then we finish by introducing more voices into the magazine. So great little place. We have a reader panel now, which we can draw and ask for their thoughts on various topics. So great little place is their reader recommendations on places they've loved from their recent travels. And then we finish the magazine with an interview with talent or a celebrity or someone of interest, talking about their travels and how they've shaped them. In this case, Professor Brian Cox. And that is it. There is the new magazine.
Well, bits of it.
Bits of it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for giving us that overview. It looks great. I love the way it more strongly echoes the parent brand. I think that really comes across so well, and yet it's still very subtle. I love that new font, Becky. You've really brought Chile to life, I feel. Nobody can miss that. So it looks great, and some fantastic new treatments and layouts. Really, really delightful to see. So the questions have been flooding in. And I've got a question from Charlotte Wilmot. Charlotte Wilmot's Charlotte's Web PR. Sorry. Hi, Charlotte. Great to have you here. Charlotte says, "Who is the best contact for the edit?"
It's the whole team, really. Just send. I don't know if people have the editorial team's addresses, but we can send them out. There's 6 of us, and you can send anything you think might work to any one of us, and it will get picked up. Sam Kemp, our assistant editor, compiles it all, and then we go through it all and pick what's going to work best for us. But yeah, just email any one of us.
And there is a photography, a brand new photo section at the end of the edit, which focuses on, it's a little bit more bittier. There might be a short photo story, or maybe it's a big image, or a really nice portrait, or some exhibitions that might be happening in the future relating to travel photography or photography. And that section is called, it's in the edit, but we're calling it In Focus. So if you have pitches, photographers out there, if you want to get in touch with our picture editors, feel free to send things in for that as well.
Okay, that's a great new opportunity as well. And I'm going to focus on questions regarding the publication at the beginning here, and then we'll move on to the wider remit. Have some good questions on your wider activities as well. So Liz Blakeborough PR says, how far in advance are you working on your news pages?
Good question. Anything from months in advance to while we're working on the issue, really. So we're working on our April issue now, and we're still looking at stories. It's 95% there, but if we had a fantastic story come in, we would consider it. Quite close up to our print deadline, really.
Excellent. I've got Gabriella Faulkner, who is, give me a second, with Spotlight Communications. Gabriella's an account manager, has asked, are there costs associated for brands or destinations who want to get involved in the competitions, other judges, or is that only if there's a kind of data capture element? Who would like to answer that? Maybe was that Pat?
For the standard competition we run, there's no charge for that. We do run obviously the first competition which launched. There's more sort of product brand stuff I can kind of go over after this, but yeah, the first competition launched on Friday, so we have sponsors for some of those events where prizes can be part of that. But generally, yeah, there's I think most people recognise it as a great opportunity with the full page coverage there, and obviously social and newsletter, and the sort of web reach of that for clients.
Yeah. Gabriella also asked, will today's presentation be shared with us post webinar? That's really one for you.
I think that there's nothing too confidential in here. We can send that out.
Okay. Well, we'll do a follow-up email to everyone who registered, and it was great to have a couple of hundred registrations for today, and we'll offer a link to that if that's fine with your team. Right, they are absolutely flying in here. Phil Thomas, who I assume is a writer, says, do you accept freelancer pitches for all the many sections that you've just shared? And perhaps any advice to freelancers wanting to make a breakthrough with National Geographic Traveller?
Yep, we absolutely accept freelance pitches. Some of it's written in-house, but a lot of it is written by freelance writers. And in terms of breaking through, as a starting point, I just get to know the magazine really, really well and pitch to specific sections rather than kind of a broad, I'm off to France, do you want something? It's like I'm going to France, I have this idea for this specific page. These are the themes I'd like to cover. And then also it's really useful if you can send an example of writing that matches the sort of thing you want to write for us, just so we can see if the style is a good fit.
Cool.
Yeah, I think so. I think certainly. I mean, we do a lot of travel writing sessions, and I think generally starting small, if we don't know, is the best kind of way. We have other products, other titles, where it's kind of good to sort of we can get to know you, you can get to know our style, and work up to the bigger features there. If I just run through some of the final stuff that we do there, the collection series. Was usually around 4 issues a year. We've got 7 lined up for this year. So these are a newsstand sale. They are normally the first third is editorial, and then there's paid content at the back, but they're kind of quite thick, coffee table style bookazines, as we call them. So culinary collection you might have seen on the newsstand that was out in January, and the Islands one has just gone to press. This one's quite big. I think it's just under 200 pages. So yeah, so the first third there we have editorial, and there's kind of shorter features and listicles, and it's a good opportunity to contribute. The guides, you probably know we've published these over the years. the USA supplement will be out with the March, the April issue this year. Winter sports and cruise we did. So those three are generally 100 pages each. They come out with the magazine. So there are, I guess, sort of the magazine, the brand in a sort of nutshell. We have listicles in there. We have longer features. We have shorter newsy kind of pieces, sometimes more analytical type reports. We had, I think, Portugal and Guatemala last year as sponsor-led destination supplements. So if you've got tourist boards keen to do something there, drop us a line. Our sales team will obviously happily talk to you. As I said earlier, online we do original online content. So again, there's good opportunity to sort of take a look at the travel content here and pitch ideas, whether it's from a sort of client PR perspective or freelancers. Most of the content from the magazine, I'd say, 90% goes online. As I said, we work closely with Washington, the US team. They've got a travel desk there who are generating content, but the majority at the moment, and certainly the past sort of 3 or 4 years, has come from us, because the 180 odd pages of the main magazine, there's several features in the collections. The supplements we produce are probably 300 pages, something to 1,000, so all the products there. These popular online pieces, as I said, trips always do well.
Thank you, Pat. Just to let you
finish
know,
off these bits.
Yeah, just to let you know, your sound is coming and going slightly.
Okay.
I think
I
sounds
shall
good.
just wrap this up here. Yeah, the newsletters are going out 3 times a year. We're launching colour and photography strands of that. As I said, photography competition launched last week. The masterclasses returns in the early summer, so travel writing and travel photography sessions, and TikTok is underway. Video.
We've launched. Come follow us.
Tell us more about that, Becky.
Well, it's about time. We're one of the we've been working on a lot of new digital content over the past year over on Instagram, and introducing some new formats there, some moving image things, some content that our photographers are getting while they're out on shoot, some behind the scenes action. We're trying to, get that more out there for you guys to see. So TikTok, it was time for us to join, and we just did recently. So go ahead and check it out.
That's very exciting. I will be subscribing today. And actually, on I think a linked point, Claire Roadley of Umlingo Travel PR says, "Are you interested in video content more generally for the website and social? So how can PRs pitch in video content?"
That's a good question. I think we're still kind of trying to navigate that. If you've got something, pitch it. We'd love to hear about it. If you've been out somewhere interesting and you've got a good story connected to it, just send it over, and we'll have a look and see if it works for us.
Okay, all good. To the promotions point that we were covering earlier, I think I need to ask this as well. Emma Powell, Pat, says, "Is the competition page a paid for opportunity?"
No. There are obviously many paid for opportunities, but no, that single competition page is not paid for. That's just something we work with PRs on generally.
Okay, fantastic. So if they can deliver the complete package, you give away some wonderful prizes there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi to Joe White, who handles the IPW show in the UK, supplying UK journalists to go to IPW, the big American trade show. Joe says, "What are your plans for US editorial this year? What have you got planned?"
Always lots.
Well,
As
America's birthday.
As I said earlier, the annual US supplement comes out with the April issue, so 100 pages there. As Becky says, I'm sure she's very excited about the 250 anniversary. We tend to have,
Amazing.
most issues, there's some US coverage, whether it's a few pages or a bigger feature.
Yeah, well, amazing year with the 250th anniversary. I'm sure Becky wants a big splash on Detroit, given your own heritage.
Yes. A cover story. I'm all over that. Yeah.
Cover story on Detroit in that lovely new font. Uh, I've got a question from, just bear with me 1 second, sorry. Louise Newton from Igloo, who asks, she states, this is simply the most stunning magazine anywhere. I think that point is accepted. Just a thought though, is there an archive of past copies? It would be great for PLs to have access to that. Is that possible? Does it exist?
Yeah, I think last year we did launch a back issue ordering option on the subscription website. Digital is available. I think going back quite far away, Pocket Mags is probably the easiest option there. But there is a Nat Geo Traveller app where you can access the magazines as well. So digitally is probably the easiest way. We are on Readly, which is perhaps the best way. It's a sort of small subscription there. You can access hundreds of magazines, and then I'm sure you can go back quite far away with our archive.
Fantastic. Question from Katie Crow. Hi, Katie. Really glad you've joined us. Who would be the best person to invite on a press trip from your team for the edit?
Yeah, anyone. So yeah, we can share details of our whole editorial team. If we get invites to press trips, we get them all together and just consider them, see what works, see where the content might best fit. We also use freelancers for those too. It's not exclusively in-house staff. So yeah.
So
Yeah,
she does say, is Pat up for a trip from time to time?
occasionally I can squeeze something in, but yeah, I'm stuck in meetings quite often. Yeah, we've got. I mean, as Amanda says, there's a lot of people in house here. The editorial at natgeotraveller.co.uk email is usually the best way to kind of come through to us. But we've got six staff on the print title. There's three on digital. There's three on the collections. There's probably 6 or 7 people on branded content, as well as a design team and a subbing team, production team. So, we started out with a handful of people, and we've grown quite rapidly since COVID. To be honest, it took off again quite quickly after 21.
Fantastic. Simon Clark from Visit Isle of Wight says, I've got no question, just a quick shout out to say how great the new look is. Thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've got so many questions that have come in, which is just fantastic. So I'm trying to get through them as quickly as possible so that we can involve everyone. Eloise Barker from Responsible Travel says, you mentioned your readers love trains. Who doesn't love a good train? What other topics tend to do well with the National Geographic Traveller audience?
I mean, there cover diverse number of interests. They're an interesting bunch. So culture does well, city travel, food, as I mentioned, wildlife activities. Yeah, it's really broad. There's not much that doesn't interest them, to be honest. And we obviously try and reflect that in the magazine by covering lots of different types of travel experiences and making every issue kind of trying to represent all those interests in every issue where we can.
Yeah. Sometimes travel editors love to name their reader, their age, where they live, what football team they support, all the rest of it. Nottingham Forest, obviously. So do you have any demographics on your readership?
I guess the sort of loose demographic. I mean, as we the demographic we pitched it at from the start has probably been the one that's sort of remained that way. So generally, I think those who book travel and those who read magazines are slightly lean more heavily to female. So it's probably 60-40 split there. The age range, online is obviously about 10 years younger generally, with social too. But I suppose the kind of key readership is 35, going up to 55, 60 perhaps. But I mean, sometimes we get surveys back and we've got, teenagers reading it, and we've kind of got, I mean, pensioners is quite a large group, but certainly people in their 80s. My mum's 83. She's just back from Madeira. She's off to Australia in 2 weeks. So, there's nothing stopping age these days. But yeah, like I say, I think the core print readership is probably 35 through to sort of 55. So it's that perhaps perhaps a little more affluent. Certainly those who have the time and money are those who travel more, as we know. But I think certainly during COVID and from the start, we've always aimed to be a magazine you can just sit in an armchair and read and enjoy, and just kind of enjoy travel from that aspect, without taking the trips perhaps. There was a lot of pent-up demand. I think there still is, for this kind of tick off some of those big trips. So we're seeing the benefit of that still. Destinations like Chile, Australia, Japan are still hugely popular.
Terrific. Hilary Collins, who's a PRMD, says, roughly what percentage of the publication is UK focused compared to international?
I mean, we have UK stories every issue. It varies. Sometimes there'll be a handful of pages. We've got I think a 6-page Wales feature in the April issue. There's a UK or England piece in the that's longer, 10-page maybe for the May issue. So sometimes there's longer features. There's certainly always a kind of a good UK focus in there. But I think, and like I say, the idea is always that there's some affordable trips you can do now, something you can sort of take off, jump on the Eurostar, pop over to Europe, do something a bit shorter, as well as those big ticket kind of destinations.
We always have the 2-page UK break feature in every issue, so that's guaranteed. And yeah, as Pat said, we other types of content on the UK come and go, but that's irregular.
Terrific. Emma Kelly from Tin Man, great brand, says, will you still have the Meet the Trailblazer segment? And perhaps you could describe that to the audience.
So Meet the Trailblazer was an interview with someone we thought was doing something interesting and unique and trailblazing in the travel sphere, whether that's a chef or a tour guide. We don't have that page as a standalone piece anymore, but we've got scope to cover, to include that kind of interview and people pushing travel boundaries in our travel news pages. So if you've got someone you'd like us to consider, definitely still pitch us, even though that actual format has gone. We've still got options to include them somewhere in the magazine.
Very good. I've got a question from, just bear with me 1 second, I do apologize. Stephanie Francis, there's so many names to work through here, who is at G Adventures, part of the G team. How and when do we pitch stories for the luxury collection?
Yeah, Sasha and Charlotte edit the collection series. Like I say, I think in the first case, just the editorial email is probably the best place to start, and from there we can kind of get it to the right editor. That is coming up. That's usually the biggest collection publication of the year. That's coming up again soon. But yeah, drop us. I mean, certainly, drop editorial a line or drop any of us a line. We can share those emails.
Yeah, the next one is published in October, so I think there's still time and scope to pitch for that one.
Great. Kirsty, is very good question indeed. What would be your top recommendations for PRs to avoid or to include when pitching to you? So some good, solid pitching advice, the do's and don'ts, if you want to make a good impression with National Geographic Traveller, please.
That's a big question. A very good one. I'd say same with writers pitching. It's as a first step, just know the magazine and which section you think the pitch works best for. Making sure it's got if it's a trip that it's angled. We're not so keen on trips that kind of dash from place to place, seeing 10 places in a morning, 10 places in the afternoon. We prefer to kind of slow down and properly immerse ourselves in the destination. So we've got time to interview relevant people and properly understand the destination. So I'd say those are the two main things. And then for our features, our bigger features, as Becky mentioned, we send a writer and a photographer. So if it's a group press trip and you're looking for kind of 8 to 10 pages of coverage in one of our big features, that doesn't always work for us. We tend to look for individual press trips, and we work very closely with a tourist board or a tour operator in shaping those to make sure we're getting the content that we know our readers are looking for, and is going to look fantastic in print.
Fantastic. I've got a question from Elizabeth Costello. Would Australia be of interest for the competition? Have you featured Australia as a prize destination recently?
Not recently, no. We have in the past though. So yeah, I mean, I think I mean, in terms of competitions and coverage in the mag, there's very few destinations that we wouldn't consider. And yeah, that sort of thing is obviously a great one to have. Anything that far and that attractive.
Terrific. Coming back to the new photography in focus section within the edit, that's photography. Guila Verdinelli says the new design is stunning. Well done. Could you please explain a little bit more about the new in focus section for photography? So what are you looking for? How to pitch it in, who to pitch to, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Great.
you can pitch to our photo desk. We've got our picture editor Ben Rowe and our associate picture editor Aisha Nazar. We'll send those emails out when we're sending the whatever we're sending afterwards with all the details. But yeah, like I said, it could be a big picture of somewhere that you've been recently, that has a nice story involved. It could be a festival if it's like a timed piece to go into that issue. It could be a really niche little photo story that might not work in a bigger format, an 8-page feature, but might work as a spread, showing a handful of images. If there's a photography exhibition coming up, we're happy to feature that. We're happy to feature things from new books that are out. Any kind of recent trips, like nothing from like years ago, but more recent. So we kind of see what's going on in this, whatever location that it may be.
Terrific. Louisa Roberts asks, sorry, I don't have a company for you, Louisa, I do apologize. Do you have a content calendar for the year so we can find out about the destinations and themes you're interested in upcoming issues?
We do a features list, but not one we share, fortunately.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think if you look through the mag, you can see we generally sort of try and cover as much of the world as we can in each issue, and then obviously try and have that balance across the year. So some destinations come up every year: New York, Greece, Japan, popular with the readers always kind of come up, and then other sort of less known or less visited destinations we'll include them, but they'll perhaps be on a sort of 2 or 3 year rotation with other destinations. But if if you look through the sort of recent issues and online and see there's a gap where a certain city or a certain region's not being covered, it's certainly worth pitching an idea there. Sometimes we have it in the pipeline, sometimes it's one that's worth a revisit. And there's I suppose with lots of things it's just a matter of timing.
Yeah. a freelancer's perspective here. Hi to Sarah, darling. Glad you could join us. Sarah asks, do you take stories from freelancers based on a group press trip or not?
Probably not longer features, but the shorter stuff. If you've, I mean, certainly, if you can add on a few days and sort of find your way around, but we'd certainly we'd rather do things, discuss a commission ahead of a trip rather than after the trip. I'm sure Amanda's got thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, as Pat says, they can work for the shorter features and the more templated treatments, like the ones you saw in the guide, and a few in the to edit section, where it's more kind of recommendations based rather than necessarily that kind of immersive, insightful look at a destination where we don't tend to use group press strips so much. But yeah, always worth asking. But yeah, with a mind to looking at the front and back section. And yeah, as Pat said, we generally prefer to commission content based on trips that are going to happen rather than have been taken already, just so we can have some input in how they might be shaped.
Very good. So just covering off one or two wider issues as well. Gabriella Faulkner, I mentioned earlier, had a question, but I thought this was a good one too. Are you able to tell us a little bit more about the National Geographic Traveller Hotel Awards application process, methodology? Any kind of hints there? Best practice?
Yeah, I mean, we've run that for 8 or 9 years, I think. Generally, it's new hotels, so anything that's kind of opened in the past year, 15 months or so. We are looking at working more closely with Washington on the list this year, so we haven't quite decided how that's going to work yet and what shape it's going to take. So yeah. That's one to wait on. But yeah, it's not. It, in the past, it's been we sort of look at recent openings and try and work out the shortlist, and we can kind of get a team of judges on board. It's not really something that people apply for, if you like. But yeah, this year is taking shape in a possibly the same form, possibly slightly different. We'll wait to see.
Okay, very good. Kind of a question for me. In terms of pitching in maybe a trip or a feature idea, have you got any advice to PRs on on what kinds of pitches work for content that may not only make the magazine, but might also be pushed onto the worldwide National Geographic website? What works well there?
Do you want to take that one, Amanda?
Yeah, sorry, my dog's barking, so I turned my microphone off. Sorry, can you just repeat that question? I was
Of course.
massively
So
distracted.
if PRs are pitching in and they're hoping to sort of pitch a story to you that may not only be picked up by National Geographic Traveller UK magazine, but might also find its way onto the National Geographic Worldwide site, what
Yep.
sort of package looks good to you there?
Most of what we produce for print all goes online. So that's kind of everything. And if there's something, sorry, can you hear me? My dog's really
No, we can hear you, and I actually can't hear the dog at all.
Okay, good. So one way to it won't publish online if they have a very similar feature already on that destination, that angle. But then we would tend to consider it in print either. It's not exclusively that case. So it's always worth seeing if you have a pitch for a certain angle on a destination. It's always worth seeing if there's something similar already online. In which case it might not work for us. But yeah, what works for print goes online. And in terms of what we're looking for, just something unique is always good. Something that shows the destination in a new light, rather than something that maybe readers feel they've read countless times before, either in print or online. So yeah, the surprises I mentioned are always good.
Very good. That's really helpful. Pat.
Something we didn't mention was that, I mean, it's always out of our hands, but we do syndicate the content with the other National Geographic Traveller titles around the world. So I think there's 8 or 9 at the moment. So occasionally you'll see a feature translated into Dutch or German or Spanish, and in a magazine that doesn't doesn't look like it doesn't look like the form you might know, but the feature will be taken from us and produced pretty much as it looks within our magazine, but in a different language. So one we don't have control over because they pick and choose what they want, but is a good way of extending that reach.
Very, very good. So Isabel Turner Hicks, who is a journo turn PR, asks, who is the best contact for competitions at National Geographic?
Normally Sam Kemp looks after those, but again, like I say, the editorial email stuff comes through to that, and we'll fish out what we need from that and send it on to the right people.
Cool. And Isabel asks a question, I feel I should pitch this. How has the unrest in the US affected travel for you guys, if at all?
I mean, obviously there's been, stuff happening in the recent weeks, but in the past, over recent years, I don't think we've seen anything significant in terms of travel. There's always ups and downs, but I think newspapers, are operating on a much sort of a quicker turnaround, and things are kind of more quicker feedback. And as far as they're concerned, I don't know if well, to be honest, we wouldn't see anything immediate there. Tour operators and airlines and so on would have more up-to-date figures on what's happening globally, but I don't think there's any huge impact as far as we're concerned at the moment.
Cool. Charlotte Wilmot's asked an additional, which is family travel a key focus with you? And if it is, do you treat it slightly differently in the way you present it?
Yeah, we did have a family page, dedicated family page in the sort of previous incarnation. We're taking a more I won't say selective, but kind of approaching it differently. So we might have a 5 or 6 page list feature. We might have as we had the Paris feature in the March issue, focused there. So I suppose taking family and like food really, dotting it through the mag where it seems most appropriate or what's most interesting to us. Family travel, like other sort of segments of travel, solo travel can be sometimes a little bit difficult to tell the difference, I suppose. Certainly with kids, if you're traveling with babies or toddlers, it's very different to traveling with teenagers. So we do try and reflect that sometimes. But if you're doing a city guide, there's sometimes not a huge difference, and sometimes there's a massive difference between who you're traveling with.
Cool. And a final question, I think we've got it because I've promised the team we will stop at the top of the hour, bang on time. As Becky says, every day is press day. Final question from Arundhati Hazra, who asks, how far ahead do you commission for sections like edit and the guide and so forth?
I'd say up to a year, we'd start thinking about pictures, particularly where it's particularly seasonal. For example, if we're doing something that's very much but focused on having a snowy winter experience, we obviously need to be researching that the previous year, or at the end of the previous year. So yeah, it kind of depends on the destination, but anything up to a year.
Very good, very good. To our audience, if I missed your question, there are quite a few outstanding. I hope that to some extent those questions were covered off in other answers, but I'm sorry that I couldn't get to everything. We are at the top of the hour. It's been an absolutely fascinating session. Loved getting that sneak peek on the New Look publication. It's been a wonderful hour. So thank you for making that happen to Pat Riddell, the editor, Amanda Canning, deputy editor, and Becky Redman, art director. You've been a formidable trio and love doing this hour with you. Thank you so much for joining us and look forward to seeing you all soon, probably at IMM. I'm Henry Hemming. Thank you to our audience so much today for joining us. We had a massive turnout. And yeah, see you soon. Thank you to the team.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.